about this panel. This is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Weinstein, who's going to be moderating the panel.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
I'm getting some weird audio that's just rolling back in. So I'm going to mute that and keep talking. Essentially, we're going to be turning it over to moderator Jerry Weinstein. And Jerry was honored this year with the 2021 ABCA Wilson Lefty Gomez Award. Now, we were not able to present that award in person. We will be presenting it next year in Chicago, but I wanted to make sure to point that out because the award is extremely impressive. And man, I'm just a huge fan, and I'm so thankful for your participation in this, Coach. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you. It's all yours.
Okay, the Dodgers are going to lead us off. We're going to start with Mike Scioscia, and he's going to talk about pitcher-catcher relations. Each guy's going to talk about 10 minutes, and then we'll get some Q&A stuff going and really dig in.
Jerry, great to be here, guys. Great to be here. Talk a little bit of what I feel is the most important position in all sports, and that's catching. And if you look at a team and how a team is built, there's no doubt that defense is always important with the club. And the most important part of your defensive unit is not your shortstop, not your center fielder, not your third baseman, not even your catcher to some extent. It's the guy that's on the hill. It's the pitcher. That's your number one defensive piece in any ball game is the guy that's on the hill making pitches. So how we complement that, the battery, is the catcher. And the pitcher-catcher relationship, I think, is the heartbeat of every club. And if you can control the defensive end of any sporting event, you have a better chance to win. And so that's why I'm really passionate about the pitcher-catcher relationship and how it goes. And it starts with really the physicality first before you talk about a game plan. I'll get into that in a second. The physicality of being in the right location, giving the pitcher the right visual on each count so that he has a better chance to execute a pitch. And this works, guys. I think that if you see the catcher that's really kind of sloppy and just giving a high target or not being in the area that he's practicing his bullpens with a pitcher, you'll see a pitcher start to waver a little bit and maybe not have that sense of confidence out there. The hill is a lonely place, and if you've practiced something in a bullpen and you bring it into a game, all of a sudden the distractions on the hill kind of evaporate, and that's why it's very, very important for a pitcher and a catcher to be on the same page as to how you set up. And what I mean about that is, if you call an 0-0 fastball away, it's not the same as an 0-2 fastball away. Or if you're calling a 0-0 sinker away, it's not the same as that maybe 0-2 sinker away. So on different counts, it's going to really dictate exactly where a catcher wants to set up. And believe me, those 6 inches or 4 to 6 inches that you might set up are very, very important to a pitcher. Let's talk about game planning, really, and understanding and learning a pitcher. I might be a dinosaur, but I really believe that the heartbeat of what a pitcher is his best stuff. You can't reinvent something with a pitcher. You can't give him a great changeup out there if he doesn't have it, because this guy really can't handle a changeup. You can't give him an explosive fastball if he doesn't have it, because that's what you think this hitter can't handle. So you have to really deal with what you have and understand it, and have a common sense approach. At the pro level, we get so many stats that help us. PBCs, or pitches behind the count, K-zone, plus also IK-zone, K-zone with intent. All these statistics give you, and all this data gives you an idea about how to use a pitch. So if I'm out there with a pitcher and you break it down by count, and as I say, that 0-0 fastball away maybe has a little different intent than that 0-2 fastball, whether you're trying to elevate it or you're trying to paint away, whatever you might be wanting to do with it. So as you're game planning, I like to use an option line of just setting up all the different counts that you're trying to get to. And I don't think there's anybody that's going to dispute that if you're throwing a lot of pitches behind the count, and we talk about PBCs, that's a great evaluation tool, that it's going to be tougher sledding because you're always trying to work your way back in accounts. Hitters are getting better looks at things. So that's why it's very important to understand your pitcher's best stuff. And you'll get a data that'll say that his slider K-zone is, it might be 40%. And in the macro, it looks like, well, it's less than half. But if you look at the micro and the IK zone with intent, you'll see the pitcher that can, when he wants to throw a slider in the K zone, can do it upwards of 75 or 80% of the time. I mean, he wants to get it looking like the strike and getting it out of the zone, and it'll show up as a strike, as a pitch out of the K zone. He might do it, maybe it's 10% or 15%, and that's great. So if you blend it to 40%, really doesn't tell you very much. You have to really start breaking it down with intent of a pitcher, and now you understand, is it a pitch you can get back into count with? Is it a put away pitch? And what I like to do when I was catching and also when I was working with catchers is give them a simple idea of here's when we look at a pitcher. How does a pitcher get ahead? How does he get back into counts? And how does he put hitters away? And I think as you're building your option line and you're starting to understand on counts and trying to understand which pitches make more sense on counts, you're not going to take a soggy changeup that's not an out pitch and throw it on a 0-2 count. It just doesn't make sense if it doesn't. If he's got the Mario Soto changeup or he's got the Pedro Martinez changeup, obviously it's an out pitch for them. You're not going to take the get over slider or get over breaking ball. It's not really an out pitch for the guy that's got that dynamite splitty. So you have to know where you're going to use these packages of pitches. And I think as you start to understand that, you start to work better with pitchers. They make more common sense, logical approaches to pitch selection, and you'll see the pitches behind the count start to drop. You'll see an understanding of how you command counts and put guys away, and you'll definitely get a better result. It's really black and white to me. So I think if you start to work with these things and start to understand it, use the data that you can apply, you'll start to get a better game plan that I think pitchers will react to, and it's all part of that pitcher-catcher relationship. If you're a catcher and you already talked to a pitcher saying, look, we're not going to get you hurt with your changeup because it's not really your best pitch, and you got first and third, one out, and you get an 0-2 on a hitter, and you call the changeup, well, in his mind, he's saying, like, what are you doing? No, we just talked about that. So that trust has to develop with that pitcher and the catcher. So when you put down a sign, he feels very, very confident that he's decisive with it, and he's going to make a better pitch. That's all I have, Jared.
Perfect, Soch. Ryan, take it away, buddy. Ryan, do your Mike. Mike, Ryan.
Yes.
I don't have sign language. What's wrong? Hey, give him a signal, will you, Soch? Let him know he's up. Ryan, you.
I swear, I tried like 8 times.
There you go. You're good. Hey.
Yeah. First, thank you guys. This is incredible. Thank you for a little while, and it's not long enough, and the rest of the guys on the panel, I've known Tyler for a little bit, met Colin. Bill and I are from, or I don't know where Bill lives, but I'm from Elgin, Illinois, and he coaches at Elgin Community College. And then obviously with Mr. Socha, this is really cool because as a Dodger, Socha is a Dodger legend as far as I'm concerned. So this is really, really cool for me. And I really appreciate that, that you all are here, that we get to talk about catching, because obviously this is all we really give a damn about. Let's be honest. I want to talk about, a few things. First, Charlie killed it. Zach has killed it so far in this convention. This is really badass. Listening to Charlie, I got to meet Charlie actually during Instructional League. I've never actually met him, and it was really cool. And we both were doing the umpiring thing during Instructional League, and I think we learned a hell of a lot about what catchers actually go through from the person who actually makes the decisions behind us. I will continue to do that as long as I'm, able. We'll put it that way. Not as a coach. I hope I'm a coach much longer than I'm able to do it. But yeah, there's been so many great things so far in this convention, and hopefully we can continue this going forward. I want to talk about the serve to lead mantra that we have. We care so much about what the catchers do and, what the catchers are. For us, the serve to lead is like the biggest thing. I'm going to share some stuff. I'm going to share my screen real quick if I can get it to go. Hopefully can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So, we talk about, we put some acronyms on this whole thing. This is kind of what we came up with as a group. Now, this started long before us. Guys like Steve Yeager, guys like Mr. Sosha here, these are the reasons why we have the ability to do what we do as a group, as a catching group with the Dodgers. This came from the guys. They talked about the game calling. They talked about the skills, the physical stuff, the strong mind stuff, the pillars of our player development system, the choices that they have, the strength, the recovery, the nutrition piece, and then serving. I'm glad that I get to follow Mike on this one, because our job is to serve the pitching staff. That is our entire job. We can talk about all the skills that we do, but our entire job is to support the most important piece on the field, which is our pitcher. So we talk about a lot of things within this, right? We talk about being a servant, empowering the relationships, being visionary, empathetic to what's going on, listening, elevating others, being adaptable, and then developing. We think of it in two pieces, the servant part and then the leadership part. The leadership part, the leading part, is the actionable part. That's kind of what we do on an everyday basis. But the serve part is probably what we spend the most amount of time on. So we'll start with being a servant. Like I said, our job is to serve our pitching staff. Our job is to be the best damn teammate possible. Our job is to show up early, stay late. There's just so much that is asked of us. And, that's just part of the gig at this point. And we need to make sure that the only thing that we care about is serving the others. Because if we serve the others, we will be successful in what we do. The second part is being empowering the others to take the control, make the decisions, and like it says, get the rewards. If we're out there to be boisterous and take all the credit, I feel like it just takes away from the dynamic that is there. Quite honestly, we shouldn't be noticed. The same way that the umpires don't want to be noticed, we shouldn't be noticed. If our guys do our job, man, they're out there grinding. They're out there working. No one sees the amount of work that they do with the game planning. No one sees the amount of video that they do. No one sees the amount of pregame work. That's fine by us. If we're looking for other pieces, and quite honestly, we've tried to convert some dudes, and it just doesn't work because, the hitting takes control. Some of the other pieces where it's just too much work or too much time, that takes control of it. And it just isn't what is a core of our value. And we want to make sure that the others are getting what we give rather than what we are taking. I think we heard it from Sergeant Barrett last night about the faucet and the drain. And I think that's the right thing. We want to be the faucet. We want to be giving the whole time. The next piece is being, oops, I missed one. The relationships. There is nothing more important as a catcher than forming the best relationships possible. We could probably talk about this for an hour. Strong relationships equal trust. If we don't have the trust of the pitching staff, man, we are in trouble. There's nothing more to say about it, quite honestly. The more relationships we get with our teammates, the better everything is going to be. The next piece being a visionary, having the foresight to see what's going on, right? We talk about vision, from the physical sense of the field being in front of us and everything else. But then we also have to understand, what can go right and what can go wrong. To piggyback on what Mike said, calling the right pitches, an 0-0 versus an 0-2, a 1-1 versus an 0-0. There's very different situations that happen in this whole thing. So we have to have this foresight and this vision to understand all of the things that are going to go on. The empathy. The last piece here is understanding how hard this game is. And I think everybody that's here, and hopefully everyone that's a part of this forum, understands that this game is way harder than we think it is. And as coaches, I think we lose some of that the further away we get from playing. But we have to understand, like, these guys are going through a lot. Let's be honest. The dudes are throwing harder with less command than ever. It's harder now than it ever has been because the guys are just spraying stuff at us. And we have to be able to then do our job. Go to the other side with us hitting. Same thing happens. These dudes are throwing harder than ever, and they've got nastier stuff, and it's more people throwing, from then on. So we just have to make sure that we have the empathy and understand that these guys are working their butts off. Whoever says that a catcher is lazy is just stupid as far as I'm concerned, because there's no such thing as a lazy catcher. If they spent time with these guys in the early work, in their post work, in their prep work, in their game planning, in all the pieces that we have to do, they would understand that these guys work more than anyone else. Now, going to the other side, the leading part, being a great listener. Personally, working on this, as a coach, we feel like we're the fix-it guys a lot of times, and we need to listen. We need to take the feedback from the players more than anything. We are there for the players. It has nothing to do with us anymore, as coaches. So being a great listener is huge. Elevating, propping those guys up, propping our teammates up, making sure that we can get the most out of our guys really is part of our job. It's not the easiest part because we are selfish as players, and we have to look out for ourselves and we have to do our jobs, but elevating everyone else only makes our team better. And the whole goal is to this little thing that's on this side is to be champions. And that's the best part about it. And then being adaptable. For me, this is a huge piece to what our men have to go through is they got to learn how to be adaptable. They need to learn how to roll with the punches. They need to learn how, their day just got derailed because there needs to be 2 more bullpens thrown. Their day and all this planning that they've done goes out the door because the guy just had a bad day and he's out in the first inning, and now we have to adapt and go through the rest of the day. So being adaptable might be one of the strongest characteristics of a catcher. And then the last piece is developing. This is more for us as coaches, but developing stronger men. Strong men equal great players as far as I'm concerned. And if we can go about developing strong men, we will get players that are able to handle this whole thing. The 2 in the middle, right? It just looks nice with the serve 2 lead kind of thing, but it's us versus them. It's we versus me. And I think it takes a little bit of time for guys to understand how important it is to be a part of something rather than themselves. And I think we have to take it upon ourselves as coaches to then teach them how to do that. It's unstoppable, like it says on here. I do believe it is unstoppable. The game is meant for us to win on the defensive side. So, there are a few things that can go wrong. You breach the trust between the coach and the player, or the player and the player. It can create some big problems. Not being accountable is an issue. And then if your values get compromised because you're trying to fix something, it can go wrong as well. How we go about it, there's all the stuff that we talk about. It's kind of here. We have our what we call game calling university. That's more just about how we teach the guys to go about attacking the game. The end goal is to just create, like it says, badass men who are servants at heart, and they become championship caliber players, men, husbands, and fathers. So that's all I've got for you guys. Hopefully we can learn some more from others.
Thanks, Rhino. All right, Mr. Wilbur, tell us about catching the Inspiration Academy away.
Yeah. First, just thank you to ABCA, JR, and Jerry for recommending me to come on here. It's an honor to be mentioned with these guys on here. I actually got a text from my dad like 20 minutes ago, and he was like, "Dude, I picked my jersey number growing up because of Mike Scioscia." So I was like, "Dang, that's pretty cool." That's pretty surreal to be on here. With that said, I'll kind of jump into it here. All right. Yeah. So like Jerry said, the IA way, the Inspiration Academy way, it's basically just a little bit of an overview on how I approach catcher development. So first, I think a lot of the way that we were coached traditionally, how I was coached, how a lot of coaches have come up being coached, is in this assertive and commanding style where the coaches have really total control of training, practice plans. There's really no questions asked. There's no back and forth between player and coach, and the players really just expected to do whatever the coach says, no questions asked. And I think what we found over time is that typically just doesn't help our players learn or get better. So really what I'm striving for is more of this collaborative style where it's really built upon me just being unapologetically myself, right? Being authentic, being honest, being vulnerable with my guys, right? Once we have kind of our baseline established, I try to have consistent player input in our training plans. There's the majority of our days where I kind of have some sort of outline for how we're going to train that day. And then it's like, hey guys, what do you got? What do you need to work on? And, whether that sort of aligns with what I had going or not, sometimes we drop it and we go do what that guy needs to do. So I think, that's important. And I think it's really important to have that conversational dialogue where it's not just me always talking. It's important to have their input in it as well. And really to encourage our players to ask questions, to challenge me, to challenge the way things have been done throughout this game and throughout, time. And I think ultimately that helps create better problem solvers. Kind of building off that, I think me giving them very real and honest feedback about whether they're doing really well or whether they suck really speeds up the development process. And when you give that real feedback, they give it back. If you're being yourself. So we're not spending 2 weeks doing some drill that I cooked up at 2 a.m. and got out of bed and tried and thought that it was going to change the way that we did catching, and to find out 2 weeks later that they thought it was crap and that it wasn't helping them, right? So when you get that real feedback, I think it speeds up the development process because we're not, wasting our time. They're like, hey, this drill sucked today, coach, so we're not doing that anymore. So I think that really helps out. Knowing when and with whom to say less and say more. I think, I have a bunch of guys that need a little pat on the back almost constantly. Like, hey, pick yourself up. That was good. We'll keep working. We'll keep crushing it. Don't worry about it. And then there's guys where, I need to say less. I need to take a step back and let's just see how he figures it out, right? So I think there's a lot of power in being silent and saying less at times. I think it's important that we're really intentional on how we approach our training and what we ask our players to do. I think gone are the days of kind of the player just blindly following what the coaches are asking them to do. I think if we want our players to be respectful of our time, then we need to be respectful of theirs and really hopefully bring some evidence as to why we're training the way that we are, whether that's through video of big league guys or major league data or, charts of your own to, show them a little bit more evidence of, hey, this is where you're struggling. So this is the way we need to attack this. I think it's really important that we're consistently searching for new and better ways to make our players better. And I think if our players see that, then they do it themselves, right? And if they're taking care of it themselves, it's eliminating your job, which is really our goal. And then most importantly, I think it's just important to understand that it's a long game, right? This whole development process, especially in the amateur space where I'm at, it's a long game, and it's not about the wins right now, right? It's about developing trust with these guys and a meaningful relationship so that we can continue to build off where they're at. Just a short little quote that I found the other day from Napoleon Hill, who's a self-help author. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And I think this relates to the development process in that I think at times as coaches, we can get stuck in this space where we kind of write things off because it, doesn't fit what you may believe or, no, that guy can't do that. And I think we really need to explore more and I think there's a lot of power in our minds, believing that we can do more. So throwing more at our players and saying, hey, I believe that you can do this. So let's try this out and see what happens. And I found a lot of success with that. Just, having our players build some confidence and having them believe that they can do more than they think they are right now. So just two short little videos right here. On the left here, I have Andrew Reimstein. He's one of my 8th grade catchers. He's a little stud. He works his tail off. And then on the right there is Logan Porter. He's a catcher in the Royals organization that I work with as well. And as you can see here, they do things, a little similarly, right? They use a little bit different setups and it's both theirs, right? So, although there's some similarities there and some may say that this is cookie cutting, they're both, adapting, the method to what fits their bill. And they're both crushing it and really training largely in the similar ways. And then on the left here is another one of my 7th grade catchers, Oakley Shirk. It's a big league name, right next to Higgy from the Yankees. And this is in no way, me saying that my guys are, big league guys or whatever. I think this is just more of a way of saying they're capable of more than we give them credit for. I literally showed Oakley here a video of Higgy and kind of explained why he eliminated this sort of traditional secondary stance that, a lot of catchers are using, and explained the reasoning behind it. And 5 minutes later, we're outside doing some read reacts with me throwing, and he absolutely crushed it. So I think that's just one example of our players, adapting to what we ask them to do if they have the understanding. Lastly, just wanted to share my contact information, Twitter, Instagram, email, phone number. If there's anything I can do to help any coaches or players on this, I would love to be a resource and help out.
Colin, outstanding. Thank you. Tyler Goodrow is going to talk to us about throwing.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I started to get my screen set up here. Congratulations, Jerry. Congratulations, Ryan. So it was fun watching you manage all those years. I didn't get to watch you play as a player, but it was a pleasure. And Colin, nice presentation. Bill, I'm sure you're going to kill it here. Okay, why can't I figure this out? All right. There we go. All right. So again, let me first preface by saying, first and foremost, thank you to the ABCA for the opportunity to present on this. And this presentation is just on some throwing aspects of how we try to train our athletes at the academy here. So take what you want from it. If you want to at the end, I put my contact information in here, so you can email me or text me, call me, whatever. All right. So Scout once told me one time, the most useless tool in a Scout's toolbox is a stopwatch. You can tell how fast a kid gets down the line, the pop off the bat, as well as, the arm strength and the quickness of the catcher. Ironically enough, I have a stopwatch on me right now. So I'm going to try to get through this. I got a lot of slides. But anyways, moving forward, we play and coach in a results-driven game. So when I get asked by numerous parents and players, hey, what's a good in-game pop time? My response is simple to them. It's the one that gets them out. I think too often we think about, I threw a 191 down to second base, but you almost got him, and that just doesn't play in our game. So I think the industry as a whole, whether it be in scouting, evaluating players, ranking them, and even in player development, we hone in on that throw to second base, which I'm not taking anything away from that throw, especially if the runner gets to second base. He's a base hit away from scoring. And if he gets to third base, he's a wild pitch or a pass ball away from scoring. So for me, the throw to second base is more of a foundational type throw that we want to build off of. It's an understanding how to make an athletic play while squatting with no prep step, no rhythm builder. And it's something as the catcher needs to create. And to me, a true fact of the throw to second base is ironically, it's a team defense. Pitcher's got to execute the pitch, whether it's not a blocking situation, and you got to transfer the ball cleanly, and you got to make a somewhat of a strong enough throw to get it there, and the middle guy has to apply the tag. And so is there more to value in throwing? Absolutely. I think there is. I think, again, too often we get complacent in our mindset and unrealistic with the skill. From a amateur training focus, I think we lean heavily on that pop time. As it stands at the major league level, throwing to second and third base, which is a higher percentage throw, is actually a low percentage play relative to the entire skill set of a catcher. And as you can see here, I dropped numbers from 2019. The numbers were a lot larger, but obviously you can see from this graphic here, framing runs obviously outweighs blocking and throwing. This applies solely right now to the major league level, but with the automated strike zone looming in the distance, we need to understand that there's more than just the pop time, and we need to think dynamically when training our catchers with our throws. So there's many ways to protect 90 feet. So here's some of the situational throws that myself and the guys that we train at the academy we came up with. Again, it's just a lot of different stuff. Anything from first and second, are you going to throw behind the runner? Are you going to throw to the lead runner? Bare hand pickups, third base, first and third situations, rundowns. I think that's a play that gets missed a lot is rundown situations, creating a lane, having that communication, pitch outs. And honestly, you might think I'm crazy, but I think the throw back to the pitcher, you do it probably 200 times a game. I think that's a crucial throw when it comes to just when we talk about the entire skill set of throwing. You control the tempo with your throw. You can slow a pitcher down, you can speed them up, and you can stay in rhythm with them. So as we look at the big picture, though, I think what we can associate with value with good throwers, and it's not the two, 0-1s or the 1-8-9s. I think for me, it starts with game management and the management of the pitching staff. And, I think, Mike alluded to this as well as Ryan did. It's having a good understanding in that relationship. Okay. As you can see here, I've put down, do you understand the holes? Do you have something? Do you have that communication outside of maybe a pitcher catcher meeting? Is there something that you like to do? Does he like to do something? Do you understand his slide steps, his arm slot? And then I think it also, we have to take into account the runner profile. I think that's a very crucial a piece of this whole formula, if you want to call it, is who's on first base. Is it a catcher? Is it is it a second base type? Is it, Mookie Betts? Who is it? So I think that's really important to understand. And going back to what I said earlier, the aforementioned almost do not exist in our game. We just have to have the ability to understand, our clock internally and understanding our pitcher presently on the bump of what matters. So I talked to our guys about approaching the game and the position as like an infielder. And, I got to have an opportunity on my podcast to interview Tony Wolters, and he had said, I try to play the catching position like an infielder, and he's actually pictured in this graphic here. He's the Indians guy. But, I think the pitch, the speed, the location, the battered handedness, as well as the situation at hand, and then the reaction to it. Is it a bunt? Is it a block and recover? It's all going to tell you how your body needs to align and what arm slot you need to use. So I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, so he talks about being shapeless and formless and be like water. I want to preface something here, and here's our throwing buffet that I call it. I don't sit there and tell anybody that we're an arm strengthening or velocity program. Everybody always asks me, "Hey, do you incorporate drive line?" And I say, you know what, we just need to throw. And there's times for that. Strengthening your shoulder. I'm a big fan of the Jaeger Band series. We incorporate that every single time somebody picks up or is about to pick up a ball. And then we go into a football series. So we attack these days as well as our series during different times of the year. We'll do weighted ball flicks, and I'll show you some video of what we do as we go through here. Again, this is just our football throwing series. As you can see, a lot of different actions here, similar to the arm path of a throw. First one we always like to start with is, again, I think back when I was a young, player in youth select baseball, and I was on one knee and they told me, okay, get your arm up, and I wasn't using my hip. So we used this as a drill, keeping the arm up. Top right is our quarterback drop step drill. We're closing off our front side, feeling the back foot drive off and anchoring our back foot and driving through. And then our QB turn and burns. Again, just incorporate some movement with our hips, syncing up with our body so we're not getting our chest over our front side. We have ice skaters. Some people might call them, I don't know, rockers or whatever. Jumping forward to the front side. Again, driving off the back side. Single leg hops. Again, making sure that chest is not going over the front side so we have something on our back side when we're throwing. These are power jumps. Again, just trying to find some power and understanding using our lower half in our throw. We don't get an opportunity to use our lower half that much. So we use a lot of these drills to incorporate that. So they're, like I said, they're not getting over that front side too early. Top right, stagger replace. He's holding a tap connection ball to make his right arm a little bit looser and flexible through the throw. And so we incorporate finish. Load and goes, more or less just a different feeling that back hip trigger. And then we got load and goes squared. just getting our belly button turned. So we're getting that that left hip turning in. Then we have right knee down, left knee down. So they're feeling their lower half underneath them, getting their feet activated a little bit more. Regular secondary. Again, this is all with the football. I've never seen a quarterback have Tommy John surgery. So I always put that down there. And then we go through some pull downs. And again, going back to what I was saying, we try to educate our players of the academy. So we define names for some of our throwing drills here. So go to the next page here. So again, I put it on there. These are running flicks, talking about, the very remedial little league stuff where you're flicking your wrist when you're throwing. We try to incorporate rundowns every single day in our throwing program and our just overall catching program there. They're using a weighted ball there. We have ground ball infield throws. So I put the Derek Jeter reference. Again, just a different feeling of your body. I guess I got a little bit ahead there. On the last video too, we do staining concrete throws. We use a clean Flago. I think Jerry uses it's like a yellow hockey puck with a red stripe, something similar, but just to create spin. Our wild pitch pickup throws or pass ball throws, we call them arenados. Again, just to educate our players about the game, because half the time these kids don't watch the game anymore. It's sad.
1 minute, T.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to rush through this then. Okay. Wild pitch, pass ball recovery. Santiago's, he threw from his knees. Sorry, I'm rushing through this, guys. Jan Gomes throws. Drop step, he kind of drop steps when he throws. First and third pump fakes. We also add some deke moves in there. Bottom left is Real Mutos. Transitioning out of a receiving stance. Then we got hybrids to the right. And I'm going to rush through this a little bit. Sorry, we got tunnel throws here, and then umpire drops just to try to create some feel and some cues with it. Secondary stances here. I'm getting close to the end, Jerry, so I'll try to wrap this up. But just some different views of some different secondaries now. You got Luke Coy up there and Josh Tully up there. They're more of a traditional secondary stance. Their fannies above 90 and hand behind the mitt. And then we start to get to see a little bit different with Hedges, and Luis Capuano is off to the far left underneath Garver. Here's just some throws, traditional from Alfaro. Then we got Salvi on one knee. This one's going to go to the left here, guys. This is Real Muto. He kind of does a read hop into his throw and then back up to Real Muto at the top. Again, just kind of reading the runner. And then transition out of a one knee from Nola. Here's some read hybrids. Not in a traditional secondary, more of a sprinter type setup. The one to the right is Capuano was just talking about. This is a blocking play. He's not throwing, but it's a secondary position. Just wanted to show that. Hedges at the bottom right. Drop steps his right foot back and makes the throw. Again, just some throwing tools, some stuff that we use. We use the All-Star mitts, throwing club, tap connection ball. I wanted to plug Jerry in here, but we do have it in our podcast. We talked about throwing with all these guys. Some really good stuff. And then there's my information. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Bill's going to talk about receiving to get strikes at the amateur level. Bill.
Let me unmute myself here to get the screen. All right. First of all, I want to thank the ABCA for the opportunity. It is truly an honor, and I'm definitely humbled to be here. Hopefully I can add some value. There's been unbelievable talks about catching, not just on here, but also throughout the entire convention. So hopefully I can provoke a little bit of thought. Coach Green was talking today about developing elite receivers. He talked about some big moves and how they're fluid, more aggressive at the professional level. So I'm going to talk a little bit about receiving to get strikes called at the amateur level and why it's different than at the professional level. Might be a little bit of controversial, but hopefully we can add some value. So here's just a video clip of some strikes being called. All these pitches are out of the strike zone. They're all being brought back into the strike zone. Some are done with aggressive moves. Some are a little bit more quiet, a little bit more subtle, using the hybrid stance, both with men on base and with men off base. So the question for me is, will the aggressive, bigger moves by the catcher, is that going to work at the amateur level of the game? And I think the biggest issue and the biggest difference is the accountability of the umpires is completely different at the amateur level versus the professional level. Professional level they're getting graded versus, Pitch FX, K-Zone, TrackMan. I think we got Hawkeye coming in now, but they're getting graded on every single ball strike call, and that's where their focus is. So they don't really worry about what the catcher's glove is doing. They have to really lock in on that ball, and I think those big moves by the catcher are actually kind of fooling the umpires a little bit to make it appear that ball is getting into the strike zone. At amateur level, there's really little to no accountability, except for maybe the assigner comes out and watches the umpire, or maybe evaluations done at the end of the games by the coaches, or at the end of the season. So how's receiving different? Like I said, we've got big, aggressive, continuous glove arm movements at times. Why is that done? One reason it's done is so that with guys throwing so hard, I think it helps them not get taken out of the strike zone by the velocity. I think it also helps them be able to move that ball back into the strike zone, like I said. And then as far as the hybrid stance with runners on base at the professional level, there's really not the slide in Tyler's presentation about the value of the different skills of catching. Receiving is by far the most important skill when it comes to catching at the big league level. I do not. I think it's a little bit more balanced at the amateur level. So the reason why they're down to one knee is so they get under that low ball and work back up into the strike zone a little bit easier than if they're up in that traditional stance. Here you see catcher receiving the ball down out of the strike zone. It's about mid shin, and he's pulling that ball back up about mid thigh. Pretty big move. I know the umpires that we have doing our games, they're not gonna like that. They're gonna think we're trying to show them up. Because the opposing dugout coach sees that and sees that it's down. It's a tough call if you're not being held accountable by the box. Here's a few more examples. Ball's down, gets thumb down, pulls it up into the strike zone. Grabs it with thumb down, pulls it back up, and this is pulled back up into the strike zone from about 4, 5, 6 inches down. So at the amateur level, I think what works best, at least with the umpires that we deal with on a daily basis, is subtle, quieter movements. I know that it's kind of going against what the trend is now at the big league level, but I primarily deal with amateur level talent and amateur level umpires, and that's kind of what I see as what's best. The other thing is that the hybrid stance or one knee down at the amateur level, there's way more balls that are bounced, way less command by your pitchers. So it's really not advantageous, and there's a lot more aggressive base running at the amateur level than at the professional level as well, which is why I prefer the traditional secondary stance with men on base and with 2 strikes. Here's a little subtle move here by a catcher, getting outside of it, working it back to the zone. Only part of his gloves in the zone. Still, the ball's still outside the zone there. A couple more examples here for you. breaking ball that's up. He grabs it on the way down and on the way back into the strike zone. Does a really nice job. Not too much body movement at all. Pretty quiet. And then this is a fastball away. Gets outside it. Got his glove in neutral position. Just slides it back into the zone with a little bit of a wrist move. If we slowed it down, you'd see a little bit of a thumb down to thumb up, and then a little bit of a shoulder move. But timing's great. So what do I look for at the amateur level, and what am I looking for from my guys? Soft hands and a firm wrist. I think that stops the baseball, keeps you from having negative movement. I think that is one of the biggest issues with the amateur level catcher is the ball pulling them out of the strike zone, and then they have that big move to get it back to where the ball actually was. I like my guys to get their arm extended at contact and then work the ball back into the body a little bit. I like a quiet body swaying with the ankles, but as quiet as possible. Glove position, no matter what pitch location it is, kind of like Coach Green. He talked about getting that thumb to the 3 o'clock position. That's what I consider the neutral position. That's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to get my glove back to neutral position on all pitch locations, and then finally getting to the spot early so I can work the ball back to the strike zone, and the momentum of the ball doesn't take you out of the strike zone. One of my favorite clips is from a few years ago. NLCS drops the thumb down to go get it. Real quiet, nice little glove flip with the wrist back up. Body's pretty quiet. Just looks real good. In conclusion, obviously the number one goal of receiving is to get as many strikes called as possible to help your pitcher out and to win as many borderline pitches as possible. I think Coach Weinstein coined the phrase strike balls. Try and get as many of those strike balls as possible is going to be advantageous. And what necessarily is working at the professional level we may not be quite there at the amateur level, just because of the umpire's inability to call so much glove movement. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Hopefully you got something out of this. The next slide is my contact information if you want to talk further about this, or if you need anything, be happy to help any way that I can. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bill. Okay, we're going to take a little shotgun round here, and we're going to go through the group and give us your favorite runner on second base signal system. So you started off just the one you like the best.
Jerry, that's very proprietary. You have to pay me for that one. That's a lot of good stuff.
I'll buy you jelly donuts.
All right, that's all. All right, I'll give them all to you then. Okay. Here's the deal with switch signs. It's not going to be contingent on how smart your catcher is, or can he handle it. It's really going to be the pitcher's the pitcher's comfort with set of signs. I found it much easier to go with multiple signs, as far as like maybe giving a guy 3 different sets that a catcher could change during an inning or an at bat, that were pretty simple, as opposed to having, the pumps and all kinds of where you start and are you adding strikes, that if the pitcher wasn't comfortable with it. So my all-time best that we had really is, as you're given a sign, head nod right was second sign. If I'm looking right at you, it's first sign. If I'm looking to my left, it was third sign. Very subtle.
Nice.
And simple set. Used them. I don't know if guys got them or not, but we had a lot of success. And that was it.
Brian, what do you got?
I jumped off of this because on my couch is a binder full of literally our signs for the next year. So I will not tell you what they are, but I have 32 different sets of, I think it's 32 different sets of 3 to 5 different signs per set.
We'll just ask.
Ryan, I got a question for you. How many times during an inning will your catcher be able to switch?
They can. We would prefer that they switch a couple times, one, and then with the runner on at least once per. So I think it's just obvious at this point, like the signs are a big deal, and we got burnt by it. So it's kind of a big deal for us, I guess we'll put it that way. But I really love what you just said, like the head nod. The signs that are hidden in plain sight are the absolute easiest, best, perfect signs that can be used. So, I can tell you in this giant book of signs that I've been working on for the last 2 months, it might be second sign, right? It might be second sign. It might be last sign. It might be first sign. It might be whatever. You just have to change them. If we change them, you cannot get them. And it doesn't have to be hard. And I think what happens a lot of times is we try to make it so complicated that no one will use them. And then they go 2 second sign, right? And that's just the dumbest thing ever. And if guys aren't able to change them, then we're in trouble. So the easiest signs are the most obvious signs. First, last, second, third, chase the 2, outs plus 1, whatever they might be. You can use those as long as you switch from one to the other often, because all it takes is that guy on second base to give the wrong sign one time and it's off. That's all that matters. So if we, like I said, this book is full of way too many signs, and for all the levels that we have, and we're doing it from the Dominican to the major leagues, this virtually the same signs, just in different ways. We just have to educate our guys to be able to switch them. More importantly, the relievers have to be able to understand them. So if relievers can get the signs and they can understand like first, second, last, outs plus 1, strikes plus 1, whatever it might be, then we're money.
Go ahead, Colin. What's your favorite?
Yeah, so really trying to keep it simple for our guys, or else it would largely just be a disaster. But yeah, for the most part, like my favorite is we go first sign or last sign plus 1. So typically 4 or 5 turns over to 1, 1 is 2, 2 is 3, like that. Or like Ryan was just saying, like just keeping it simple, first, second, third, last, whatever, and just switching it every couple of innings. Luckily, we are not the Dodgers and having to deal with everyone trying to steal our signs for the most part. So we try and keep it simple.
Tyler?
Yeah, again, simple like everybody else, but we use a mitt. Turning it in might be, the fastball. Keeping it pointed straight out at the pitcher might be, off speed, some sort of off speed if they're a 2-pitch pitcher. And then before they come set, it's probably hard to see where I'm at, but, if I drop my hand down on my fist, and it's closed, that might be in. If I open it up or have it flat, it might be away. So keeping it real simple, like you said, we've all been crossed up, I think, once before at the catching position. That's not a fun feeling. So I remember taking 94 off the kneecap and thought it was in play. I thought the guy hit it because it was banged against my kneecap so hard, and it was a line drive straight to the third baseman. And I started running off the field like it was the third out, and turns out they're like, "Stay back on. What are you doing?" So, but yeah, getting crossed up is tough. So that's mine.
All right, Billy, what do you got?
Well, we're JUCO, so we got to keep it somewhat simple. But we will try to we'll use some body parts, and we may change it every pitch by body parts. Is like the top of the head might be the third sign, face mask might be second sign, and so on and so forth. And we might change that up to about 3-4 body parts, and then give our sign sequence after that. That's probably my go-to.
I'm going to since I'm the moderator, I'm going to take the liberty to weigh in here and give you a real simple one that you don't have to change. The pitcher determines what the pitch is going to be based on open mouth or closed mouth. If he's taking signals with his mouth open, it might be second sign. If his mouth is closed, then it might be third sign. And the runner on second base can't see that, and that would be one. Another thought I'd give you is anytime you make a mound visit, there's no reason to give another signal unless you want to deke. And if you've got a middle infielder or out there or a catcher and you think he's bearing down on your signals, you might determine a signal that your pitch you're going to give and then give a deke signal so that now he thinks that particular pitch is and only give one, like you might give a wiggle and he goes off speed on the hitter and we throw fastball because that's what we determine. Okay, now we're going to go I'll give you a topic, and if you want to talk about it, great. If you don't, just say pass and I'll give you another one. Soch, you were probably the best guy ever blocking home plate, and you punished more base runners than anybody in the history of the game, but you also took some body blows as well. Can you talk about your technique and how things have changed in today's game as far as tag plays at home plate?
Well, there's no doubt it's changed, Jerry. You really have to give a lane now. And we, if we had the ball in our possession or close to, or in the act of catching a throw, you were allowed to take the lane away. And you still can take the lane away if you have the ball in your possession, but you have to give them that initial sliding if you're waiting for a pitch. I was taught from Del Crandall, Johnny Roseboro, Roy Campanella. John Roseboro might have been the toughest human being I ever met in my life. I'll give you one indication. He had the old donut mitt, catching with two hands, get a foul tip, nail sticking straight up, rip the nail off, spit, get the ball from the umpire, throw it back, continue catching Koufax, Drysdale, all these guys throwing, 95 to 100, put his hand in his back pocket. His inning was over, go to Bill Buehler, trainer, said, Bill, I think I need a Band-Aid. I have to break down and get a Band-Aid. Put a Band-Aid on it, never missed anything. And he would hang in there at the plate. When I grew up, it was a badge of honor, last chance to save a run. As a catcher, excuse me, you were expected to hang in there. My technique was always, I was a football player in high school, was always to get low for a number of reasons. First of all, I still like to get on my knees as a throw is coming in, because that 1.5 really tough hop from Reggie Smith or guys that had those rockets, if I could work underneath the baseball, coming up on the baseball, I could get that nasty hop, catch it, and make a tag. So that's why I like catchers to have their glove facing up as the throw's coming in. I can always adjust if it's up, but I want that glove up as that throw's coming in with the palm up to work underneath the baseball and make the tag that way. Catch a ball with two hands, tag with one all the time. The only difference is now you have to have your, where I could take away the whole plate and try to stay soft and absorb, almost like taking an offensive foul in basketball. You want it to be soft. Right now, you've got to catch the ball, give the lane, and try to take it away as you make your swipe tag. That's the only difference. But I think tag plays are, there's a technique that can really help catchers.
Ryan, I'm going to give you a subject. If you want to take it, great. Or if not, I'll give you another one. How about guys that are dropping a lot of pitches? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, our job is to catch the damn ball, as Tyler's hat says, right? Like,
I like that.
I mean, that seems like,
I should have given this to Tyler. I screwed up.
I feel like his story saying he got crossed up and he missed it when he's wearing a catch the damn ball hat. It seems a little off. But,
Go big.
That's
yeah,
he
I think
started it. That's when he invented the hat.
Exactly.
He's got
Like,
the damn ball.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
I got it. It's good. I think pocketing the ball is a skill, and learning how to pocket the ball and secure the ball is a skill. Not everybody can do it, and I think when we you get into those cycles of like trying to convert guys and stuff, the first thing we have to do is make sure they can catch the ball, which seems as trivial and silly as possible, but like catching the ball is a skill. And educating the guys on what vertical break is, what horizontal break is, and all the things that we have to deal with now, and especially with how much stuff the guys are putting on the ball and making it do more. Like, learning how to catch it is important, and we've got to make sure of it. So, I think it's extremely important. how we do it. I think everybody has their own methods. But if the guy cannot catch the ball, he cannot be a catcher. It's kind of inherent in the name of our position. So, yeah, I would say it's overly important.
Jerry, can I jump in for like 15 seconds?
Absolutely. You bet.
Okay. A lot of the things, I think Tyler, Colin, Bill, you said some great things. Ryan, a lot of your concepts are not new. I think Bill said it good, and he's probably got a little more through his rearview mirror like I do than some of the younger guys. I was taught a lot of the stuff you're talking about in 1976 from Del Crandall. One of the first lessons I got was how to get underneath the low pitch. But it was done, as Bill is saying, with your thumb at 3 o'clock, because that gives you more range from side to side. Right now I'm seeing thumbs at 6 o'clock. And as you're trying to work underneath that low pitch, you might steal some low pitches, but you've got no chance to catch that ball to the inside without chicken winging and having a bigger movement, which is going to drag that ball out of the zone. Plus, it's going to kill your thumb when you're catching 94 with sink. Trust me on that one. So I think a lot of the techniques that I'm seeing now are pretty singular in their objective, to get more low pitches called. We got low strikes called. I was given, in a traditional athletic stance, I was giving targets underneath the knee to the high shin, working up with the low pitch, with Bobby Welch throwing 97, with Steve Howell throwing 96. And you learn very quickly how to catch that low pitch. We got low pitches called. There's no shortcuts in this game. There's no shortcuts to receiving. And receiving, I agree, is the most important thing that we do. But as far as focusing on one aspect of trying to get more low pitches called, I think is opening up, you're plugging one leak and you're opening up 5 or 6 other leaks, especially catching on one knee. I think one knee is only there for the pitcher if you're trying to get him down and he needs that visual. Get down on one knee. I got a picture of myself catching Ramon Martinez up here, and I'm down on one knee in 1990, before some of you guys, I'm sure, were born. So this is nothing new. But I will implore you guys to understand that there's more to catching than teaching catching to getting on one knee and putting your thumb at 6 o'clock to try to get the low pitch. That's just one little aspect of what we need to do. Catching on one knee with 2 strikes, I don't get it. If I'm catching Frankie Rodriguez on one knee and he's throwing an 89 mile an hour breaking ball that might be 18 inches to my right, I've got no chance to stop it. I've got no chance of stopping with 2 strikes. I've got to get lucky and backhanded if I can. Well, catchers need that range. Toes slightly out so I can go 18 inches to my right, 18 inches to my left. This athletic position is not going to change until catchers grow a third leg, trust me. So we're trying to get shortcuts as far as getting that thumb at 6 o'clock to get into their low pitch. We are setting these kids up for failure. Trust me on this one. So I think that what we have to do is evaluate what does a catcher needs? What are our needs? What do we need to do? I'm on one leg knee and you say, hey, I can adjust up when a guy steals. I'm telling you right, if you're playing the LA Angels, we're going to bluff steal until that catcher gets a hernia from having to jump up so far and not understanding that we're just putting a bluff in to get you moving with a big movement and taking pitches away from an umpire. So, guys, I would suggest, and this is coming not from a dinosaur. I studied this catching for a long time. I've talked to a lot of young catching instructors and a lot of catching coaches, and there's some great stuff out there that I know if I was catching would have made me a better catcher. But as far as how we're setting up and putting so much focus on the low pitch is disservice to what a catcher has to do. We don't need a great arm, but we need enough to control the running game. And I think, Tyler, you were saying, or Colin maybe was saying about the 1-9, what kind of throw do you need? You need a throw that gets the runner out. You're right. But if I'm at 205 historically against a 1-9, from the defensive side, that's a great deterrent if you get the guy that's 1-9 back there, because chances are he's going to beat the time of the pitcher's 1-3. He's going to beat the time of the best stealer. So, yeah, you don't need that great arm to shut down a running game, but you need enough arm to control it. And that lets you receive the ball and do all the things that you want to do. So as we focus on receiving stats, let me ask you this, Jerry. I'm a catcher and I'm giving a sloppy target. I'm on one knee, but I'm low, and I call a breaking ball, but I'm not in the right location the pitcher wants. And he hangs a pitch, or he gets a fastball in the wrong slot, doesn't get it outside enough, and that ball's hitting the gap. Does that show up as a negative on any receiving stats that you know of? If you throw a fastball that's supposed to be outside, nice and low, and I'm soggy in the middle, I'm down, but it gets hard to the plate and the guy hits it in the gap. Does that show up a negative as a receiving stat? No. It shows up as a nothing, right?
Well,
But
the fact of the matter is that your job is to help that guy execute pitches, and when we win a ball game, in my mind, probably not in the pitcher's mind, but you know what I'm talking about. I get half a win, and you get half a win because we're a team, and we collaborate on this, and I help you. And back to Ryan's talk on servant mentality, that's part of being a servant, knowing how
Absolutely. But my whole point is, and I want you to answer my question, because I know how we get caught up on framing stats. And I know receiving, that's number one job of a catcher. I get that. I live that. But we get so hung up on these receiving stats and maybe saving 3 or 4 pitches between the spread is not huge, but it is huge. It could be 3-4 pitches from an average catcher to a good catcher. You never know when they're going to show up, and they could be important, sure. But we're not taking into account bigger factors of what make a catcher work and what makes a catcher successful. And if I'm not in the right location, as you said, Jerry, but I'm getting good framing stats because I'm stealing some low pitches because I'm right down the middle of the plate and I'm gaming the system, but I'm receiving pitches. But a lot of those pitches are ended up in the gap. That's not a negative for me, is it? Because it's not going to show up on my receiving stats. It might show up in wins and losses, but I'm just talking about receiving stats here, Jerry.
Yeah, you're going to have a bad catcher's ERA, buddy.
Yeah, but nobody cares about catcher's ERA, and I don't care about catcher's ERA. What I care about are pitches behind the count. That's what I'm looking at, because that's the biggest thing in this picture. I went higher than 15 seconds. I'm sorry. I'll give it back to you guys, and you guys can finish up. Thank you.
No, you got to hang.
Jerry, can I jump in?
Sure.
I agree and disagree with Mike on this slightly, right? And I think this is the healthy part of this. The philosophical debate is there, but we have to understand what is your philosophy with your staff? I can say with ours, targeting matters, and that probably goes back to when Mike was there. Targeting really matters. I get a report every single day on how our guys are targeting and then the execution of those pitches. If we do those things, one, it gives us a little bit less of a chance to get strikes because we're actually executing to the zones that we want. But we know that if we execute the pitches, it puts us in a better position to get people out. So is it a chicken the egg kind of thing? I'm not really sure. What we have to understand is, though, on the flip side, is that if the ball is thrown and is missed, or say if the ball is thrown and it's not swung at, we are supposed to get those for a strike. So I think that's where not disagreement, that's where the discussion can really come in, is okay, can we help him in certain places? Well, I feel like it's just like playing poker the whole time. We're hedging bets to every place that we're going. So if we're going to target low and away, well, maybe we can work a little bit more on that pitch, but we might not be able, like Mike said, and I totally agree, we can't cover other places.
Right. So, no. Hey, Ryan, you might have misunderstood me. I'm not anti-targeting. Targeting is what it's all about.
No, I agree.
I'm not talking about targeting. And in fact, I'm talking the other way, where catchers get just preoccupied with getting down the middle of the plate and low. I see guys down the middle of the plate and low because they want to work every pitch they can catch down up. But it's not really, it might not be what the pitcher needs. So I'm 100% with the targeting and where we need to address the pitch. But I'm also, like I said, we do have more to do than just catch a low pitch as a catcher. There's more involved. On one day especially, there's more involved with range of blocking balls, getting out of their bunts, with guys stealing bases. There's a lot more involved. So I'm not downplaying it all. We were taught about how we need to get underneath the ball back in 1976. And that has not changed. It's been accented more. We could do it because we had gloves that were flexible. Back in the 50s, and what Jerry called, if you caught with a no-break glove, there was no way you could work underneath the ball. You had to turn the glove up to catch it. And even then, you probably broke a nail doing something. So I'm 100% with you on the targeting aspect. In fact, that's what I think the whole program, the pitcher-catcher relationship, where it starts is executing a pitch. You control exit velocity, the ball's not hit us as hard. You put it in the zone, you can shrink the field by shifting. All the stuff that comes into play when we can help a pitcher execute a pitch. That's 100% with it. I'm just saying, why would we want to erode that opportunity to make a pitcher make a pitch with a single-minded thing of trying to get low strikes, where we're not set up in the right position that a pitcher needs because we're trying to work so much on the low that we're not maybe out or we're not in where we need to be. And I think all this comes into play of what I'm saying when we're evaluating catchers and what they need to do. So I don't want you to misunderstand me, because I think we're talking the same language here. So as you look at the data, we're looking at and you're looking at how many pitches, spots you'll hit. I'm looking at PBCs. I'm looking at how many pitches behind a count this catcher makes this pitcher throw. Because in the big scope of things, you've looked at the OPS, especially from the 1-2 pitch to the 2-1 pitch, you're talking about a 450-point spread. That's crazy. So this is what I'm saying. We're evaluating catchers. We're not just trying to steal one segment of a pitch to get down. And we should be able to do that in a stance that gives us the flexibility, like Bill was talking about, the flexibility and the movement to be able to block, to be able to catch and keep a ball that's a little bit outside or a little bit up still in the zone. That's all I'm saying.
Ultimately,
No, I totally.
we talked. Excuse me, Ron. We talked a lot, and when we were together with the Dodgers, about pitch calling and targeting
Right.
in a way that you pitch call or target your pitcher into trouble. So, we're going to move on here. Colin, you got one bit of advice for breaking in a catcher's glove. What did you do?
Breaking in a catcher. I actually just got a new mitt for Christmas. My girlfriend got me one. So best thing to do for me
That
is,
girl.
sit behind the machine and catch balls for as long as it takes to break it in.
Okay, Tyler, how about force plays at home plate? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, to see the play develop a little bit. Don't get out there right away. Expect an errant throw, get behind the throw, and sweep as far inside as possible so you don't get clipped by anybody. I think just see it happen, understand, the speed of the runner at third base as well, and how much time you have, understanding your clock, like I mentioned in my presentation, but understanding the clock that you have, and, try to get inside. If it takes you outside, change your arm angle, but make sure you hold still. So
Where do you put your foot?
Well, I started it just, again, I think it varies play to play, but I try to start it, my right foot behind the plate at the point and drag it across. Like I said, clearing myself as up the line as possible, out of the way of a potential slide and collision where that guy can take me out. Again, I think, like I said, not getting out there early. Now, if the play is at the plate and the focus is, we're not turning two, but if it's a force, I want to stand on it and keep it on in case that, I have to become a first baseman.
Bill, your number one favorite drill?
Ooh, I like game speed blocking. Game speed blocking where they're going to block, retrieve, and have to throw to a base. And I'll call out the base. I'll call out the situation. They'll block, they'll throw, and then execute the throw so that they can work on clearing and actually finishing the playoff.
Soch, mound visits. Any thoughts?
On mound visits,
Mound visit.
you're talking to the wrong guy, because I spent
I know what you're gonna say.
20 minutes a game out there talking to guys. I think mound visits are critical. Like I said, sometimes guys, are on that bump, you feel alone. So mound visits are pretty simple sometimes, and sometimes they're pretty silly, and sometimes they've got definite, just strategy that you're trying to figure out. One of my best friends in the world, unfortunately passed away, Bobby Welch, had one of the funniest mound visits I've ever seen in my life. We're playing the Braves, and Bobby Welch, he had great stuff. And he's just, the first 3 innings, he just goes through these guys like hot knife through butter. I mean, not even a loud foul ball. And they had, Murphy, Horner, they had a great lineup. And he's just throwing the crap out of the ball. Comes out the 4th inning, and we're up 2-0. And he's, where he's usually pitching at 95 and hitting 97 when he needs it. He's kind of just like 90 miles an hour, just like kind of out of it. And all of a sudden there's a walk and there's a bloop, and he's got first and second. I go out to talk. I say, Welchie, what's going on? And he's kind of like looking sideways, and he takes his hat off. And this is Dodger Stadium. There's 55,000 people in the stands. He goes, so, do you ever feel like you've been on a sailboat going to Catalina Island? I go, what? And he goes, right now I can feel the wind on my back, and he's got his eyes closed. He's taking his hat, and he's like rubbing his sweat. He goes, I got my eyes closed. I feel the wind behind me. And I said, Welchie, I said, you know where you are? He goes, yeah, I know where I am. I said, let's go, man. You're not throwing wallies. Or I'm ready now. Let's go. Boom. Gets back to his stuff. He threw a 2-hit shutout. Got out of that inning. And I never really asked him afterwards, like, what was going on. But that was Bobby. Sometimes it's like guys are out there and they're getting a little bit distracted with stuff they shouldn't be. But that was the most interesting mound visit I ever had.
Rhino, what about pitch rounds?
Say again.
Pitch rounds. Any thoughts?
Like pitching around guys?
Yeah. Any thoughts on strategy for pitching around hitters?
Well, I think the data's there to what they can and cannot do. So, you can execute pitches to where they might swing and you can still do 0 damage. There are times where you should pitch around guys just to get to others. I mean, like I said, the data's there. So, I think it is a necessary tool. You're just trying to minimize damage the whole time. So anything we can do to minimize that is great.
Okay. Colin, how about 0-2 pitches?
0-2 pitches. I think wasting pitches is exactly that. I think we valued this, traditionally that fastball 2 feet outside that never gets called a strike, right? I think 0-2 pitches, we're trying to get that chase pitch, right? Starting it in the zone and letting it break away from it and trying to get swings and misses.
Tyler, how about first and third throwing? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it goes back to understanding runner profiles, the situation, the count, what part of the game you're in, understanding, your personnel that's on both sides. Are you on the same page? Are you communicating with people? So a lot goes into it. Can't take anything for granted. But again, I think the situation is going to dictate on what you do with the ball when you have the control of the baseball.
Bill, how about pitch calling with the infield in for your catchers?
Well, we're trying to get a ground ball. So, it'd be beneficial to throw something down in his own 2-seamer if a guy's got a good one, or something breaking ball down, slider away, something that's going to get us to get the ball on the ground.
Jim, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How much time do we have?
6 minutes.
Okay. Soch, one thought before we go to the Q&A from the coaches.
One thought on what?
Anything.
Oh, man. I just love this position. I love talking to you guys because I can feel the passion that you guys have, and that's encouraging. Jerry, we've been in this game a long time. I think catching is the most important position of any sport. I think it can control a game like no other position can. And I just I just love it. So I really like a lot of the stuff that's being said. I like a lot of the stuff that's out there and being taught, with the exception of the things that we had discussed. But I just think it's the most underrated position in all the sports, and that's what I'm drawn to when I'm watching a ball game. And I think you can see a catcher that's more proficient than another when you just sit there and study him for a little bit. So I love the position.
Rhino?
I couldn't say anything more than Sosha said. We're in a really cool time to where we actually have a forum now, to where it used to be almost like a secret society. There wasn't a place for such a small group to actually get together. So, learning from others and being a part of this. I mean, I could sit here for another 10 hours and talk to these guys. This is awesome.
Colin?
Yeah, really just echoing what both of those guys said. The catching position's in a really good place right now. I think there's more people passionate about catching and putting good information out there than there's ever been. So let's keep growing it.
Tyler?
You just got to catch the damn ball. That's all you got to do.
I like that.
That's all I got.
Hey, Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, well, first of all, I am loving the fact that I got a front row seat to this, because it is awesome to sit here and listen to the back and forth, and just bouncing ideas off of each other. Catching position, easily, in my opinion, the hardest position on the baseball field to play, but also the most rewarding. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I'll just kind of finish up this part of our hot stove with I think the thing that has helped the catching position more than anything else. I think social media has really helped because there's a lot of good people out there sharing information. But I think that the data people have really helped us because they've been able to define the importance of the catching position. When they tell the San Diego Padres or whoever that Austin Hedges is worth probably 3 or 4 big league wins just based on how he catches the ball, that now people are starting to bet. And now we always understood the value of a single pitch in regards to what effect it can have on a ball game. But now they're really able to define the run value that's created by a particular pitch that could be a ball, could be a strike, and all of a sudden it becomes a strike because you are a proficient technician. And also you've got a pitcher that can execute his pitch because you've called the pitch that you know that he can execute and given the target that he needs to execute that pitch. So you're a prime mover in that equation. And the fact that we're able to say, hey, you saved, for instance, like in 2018, Hedges led baseball in getting what Baseball Savant called shadow pitches. I call straballs, pitches on the fringes of the plate, the fastball just above the waist and anything on the corner, so on and so forth. But he got the highest percentage, and his overall receiving above the average guy was worth 27 runs. And in baseball, probably 8 to 9 runs translates into a big league win. A big league win is worth about $8 or $9 million. So just his receiving alone, his value for receiving alone was like $24 million. And so now that unsung hero, that guy wearing the so-called tools of ignorance, all of a sudden his status becomes greatly elevated just because of the effect that he's going to have on the scoreboard on a daily basis. It's something that we have known forever. And now everybody knows that and everybody appreciates that. And that's all I have. And Jim, we can go to that next group if we're ready.
Coach, that sounds awesome, gentlemen. It is listed in the agenda on the main schedule page. So you'll exit this, go to the main schedule page, and in the agenda, you'll see a link for the post-hot stove catching question and answer session. We'll see you over there, guys.